Welcome back to class, Mother Dunkers.
What's up?
I am your absolutely out-of-pocket Professor Ethan.
Ooh, and I am your, criminally adjacent this time, Professor Ricky. It's been a weird day. I gotta be honest, but out of pocket. I mean, that's quite a bold claim.
Well, that's gonna come up when the episode starts.
Sick. All right,
but I want to hear your thing.
You're dropping the bombs, yeah.
My superlative, I'm dropping it early.
I feel you. Yeah, before we came to the lab to hit the record, I was finishing up the show we're going to talk about today, but in that time, my tiny little complex was just swarmed with what felt like 35 to 40% of the entire city's police force to, I guess they're reporting or, following up on a domestic dispute. And it was more unusual than I thought it was because of a few key factors here. One, the guy or people that are typically in that unit just weren't there. They just weren't there. There was not the typical cars. There was nobody there. And I'm like, all right, I told you facetiously that I thought me playing this show on high volume was the cause of that. And I'm just sitting up like, I didn't, law-abiding weeb over here. Gotta be honest, it's just war. It's fine.
The show's good, sir.
Sir, have you ever heard of Weebology? I'll be able to tell you all about it, for views. But then these 2 cop cars worth of cops staked out in front of our spot, and then like a third rolled up, a fourth rolled up. They stay there for like 20 minutes and then leave. Interior 630, my place, I see 2 completely different cop cars because the other ones were all SUVs. These are 2 coupes or 2 sedans. Roll up, Tokyo drift their ass into my parking lot with the lights on. Still didn't get anybody because they're not there. So I don't know who called this in.
Poor stakeout, folks.
It was an absolute failure on the part because they're staking out an empty home, from what I understand.
Right.
At all. So yeah, that was very odd to have the chaos while I'm trying to enjoy my fucking Japanese animation. But at the same time, the other thing I wanted to bring up was I went to IKEA for the first time in my life.
Dude, IKEA rips.
It is fucking sweet.
The only problem is it makes you feel so broke.
It does. Like, I took pictures of a bunch of stuff.
I make a decent amount of money. I have a good job, and I go in there and I'm just like, fuck this.
Absolutely not. Nope.
I can barely afford the freaking meatballs.
I did try their meatballs.
Phenomenal.
7 out of 10.
Wow. It's definitely more than that.
When's the last time you've been? Because this is going to, I think, resonate with the people I went with.
I went 3 years ago.
I think the pandemic has not done them kindness.
A service?
Yeah, not really.
Actually, the one I went to, well, I've been to the Charlotte one, but the one that I went to that I ate all the food at was the Mall of America IKEA.
Mall of America just has an IKEA just sitting in it? Of course it does. Well,
it's not in it. It's like across the street, and it's like very large.
Oh, yeah. This one was the Atlanta one. Quite large. Larger than I anticipated. At all, so I was shocked.
But there's just something it just feels good. You walk through this showroom and it's like, fuck it, I'll throw that in my bag. I
was taking pictures
and then
of shit.
You have this little checklist you're walking around with your inventory. You feel like all professional.
Oh yes,
yes, I'll get a number 963421. In the, let's look at the gray colorway. Why
Honey,
not?
Do we need this Chas lounge? Oh, right. I came here alone. All right.
This shiz lounge.
The Chas lounge. But yeah, I did take a couple things of inspo for potential decor in the new lab space. And I think we can discuss how that's going to look. But
thoughts on fake versus real plants?
I'm a fake plant guy.
Okay, I want to put fake plants everywhere.
Same, dude. I really, really very much want to do that. But I don't want to keep things alive.
Exactly. My biggest issue.
I like the aesthetic of it.
I wonder, so succulents don't require a lot of water.
It's like once every 5 days, maybe.
I mean, maybe I'll just throw a couple of those on that big island over there.
Sure, go for it. Yeah, I mean, I've already have a bunch of plants picked out because in my place right now, I just have a lot of fake plants in my little bathroom. So it at least feels a little more cozy for exactly 50 square feet.
What bothers me though is like either real plants, I don't know about fake plants, but it feels like it'd just be like a bug haven.
Oh yeah. And with a fake plant, bugs gonna come up and be like, what the fuck is this, dude?
Like, what's this formaldehyde, mate?
There's no synthesis of photo anywhere here, and I hate it. But yeah, IKEA, if you haven't been, it slaps, dude. It's so fun. It's honestly just an experience for the senses. You're like walking through like all these different realms. There's nothing they don't have, and they guide you with light-based arrows on like literally just traffic of people.
And then you get to the kitchen section, and it's like, yeah, that's a $15,000 kitchen. You're just like, what?
Yeah. You can pay for this in installments of $600 a month.
Yeah,
if you
for
want. For like 2-year plan. If you just like, hey, we'll just make your kitchen for you. For a price.
Yeah.
But I will say, getting in and out, because we went super early. By the time we left, it was a freaking battle to get out of there because there's absolute traffic for days. Just crowd, bodies shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Speaking of battles.
That was a bit outside, but I'll give it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Today we're talking about the second part of a show that we had talked very highly of a very long time ago. And I think it actually has a lot more to say than your typical mech show. I mean, it really is a standout, and I'm not a guy who kind of is a big mech dude, but I want some of these models really bad. Like, I would 100% get models of some of these machines. But it has a lot to say, and the show is quite deep without being preachy, and I think that its biggest highlight, but we will get into it. Ethan, what are we talking about today?
Today we were talking about the 86... Now begins my out-of-pocketness.
Okay.
This is the best show of the year by like a bajillion percent.
Okay. I don't think you're exactly that out of pocket, but we can talk about why maybe that's...
It is a cinematic, literal masterpiece. I know I throw that around quite a bit, the masterpiece, but this genuinely is.
Oh, no. And I have notes on exactly why.
It's filmographically a masterpiece. I realize I just said cinematically, and that is the same thing, but I really wanted to emphasize
filmatically.
Yeah. I think the art is absolutely just a pleasure to mine eyes.
It is. It's by A1 Pictures, who does such things as Sword Art Online, Kageyama's Love is War, and I mean, most things that A1 puts out are absolute bangers, but from a visual standpoint, this is creme de la creme of their visual feasts that they offer.
It like takes it to a next level. It's Girls und Panzer meets
a bit of Attack on Titan here and there.
I was gonna say this is better than Attack on Titan.
Now there's your out of fucking pocket. Guys. There's your out of pocket.
It's better.
We could talk about why, because I think maybe you can make a case as to why, a valid case.
It has like beyond the symbolism of like Tokyo Ghoul's first season.
Yes, the symbolism. Oh my god.
I mean, this I'm telling you right now. I think you could do like multiple video series of like just the symbolism and just this part.
Right.
I didn't recall it being like so ridiculous in the first core, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
But like this entire like episode 12 to 23, I felt like every episode was chock full of little like I guess like allegories and symbolism for like what was going on, or maybe like the feelings that certain characters were having and just shit like that. And my God above, this show slapped so hard. I was watching it and I was like, yo, this is like my favorite show of all time level.
Wow.
My favorite show of all time being Band of Brothers. Like
we're talking like just pieces of visual fiction right now. Holy shit!
And wow. I think it's the emotional weight, it's the gravitas of like literally the situation, the like tight knit group. There's the martyr character, which I was gonna say that so imbibe with.
I knew Shin was gonna be your boy. So I think before we start gushing a little more,
I can't stop.
I don't want to interrupt this.
Ricky, bring a towel.
I'm moist over here.
I'm gushing.
Let's set the stage for part 2. And then we'll get into, I think the visuals alone and the storyboarding, pacing, and the framing of these shots is worth some of this episode in and of itself. But What this story is about, it's about a kind of future surrogate Earth type situation where you have the Republic of San Magnolia, a country republic that has been boasting that they have been fighting a war against the Legion, the remnants of a fallen empire who tried to stop an uprising but failed using AI technology and machinery as their army. It backfired horrifically, and now these things are running rampant across the human world, and it is up to basically everyone else. As far as we understand in part 1, the Republic of San Magnolia could be the last bastion of humanity. We just don't know until season 2 or part 2. And it turns out that this country, like a lot of allegories in real life, are kind of built on lies and corruption for the betterment and the kind of soothing of the general public, when in reality, they are not fighting an unmanned war. They are fighting a war using what are known as processors or prejudiced groups against the Alba, who are kind of like the master race in this country, have prejudiced these human beings to be the manned piloters of these machines and let the privileged Alba race of people kind of just live peacefully, knowing no human lives are lost in this conflict. But they don't even see the 86 as human. Given that nickname, in the 85 districts of the Republic, the 86th unprotected is where everyone who does not fit that race are seen as subhuman pigs. The story, as we talked about, go listen to our part 1 for all this analysis in depth, but it is really clearly a commentary on systemic racism, but how ingrained in the fabric of society it can be, to the point where well-intentioned people may not even understand that the kind of things that they are been brought up and indoctrinated in, and it's just so matter of fact. Part 2 explores what happens when another country's system kind of welcomes these people with open arms and still employs their skill set.
But does it?
But I was going to say, but does it quite? Like, and I think it's kind of showing commentary that no system, though better than others, is perfect. No civilization, no citizen group is perfect in that regard. And it's a very interesting take on the other side of the fence, which is kind of where this part 2 is setting the stage in. We are now outside of the Republic in the Federacy that welcomed our 86 the Spearhead Squadron in with open arms after they left to finally just go as far as they can into enemy territory to just get the fuck out of there, because they did their mission. Some of their missions more important and emotional than others. But yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting. They've been indoctrinated. They've been trained up to fight for the Federacy to combat this global threat of the Legion. Now, back to the visuals real quick, because I think that needs to be said. This show is the king of showing so much and so little without saying a word. Incredible. I mean, the transitions, the things unsaid in set pieces in the background. This is a masterclass of how to do really good societal political commentary without being preachy. I never felt like I was being preached to, but I'm like, I can recognize what they're doing here, what they're trying to say.
I think the only caveat I would say is it's obvious they were trying to say something. I just wasn't necessarily certain, because there's no the biggest issue I had with the discrimination against 86 is there's no definitive
basis for it.
Well, descriptor or there's nothing. Yeah, basis, I guess. They look like everybody else.
But that's the thing, right? The Alba are all silver-haired, silver-eyed, unified in that aesthetic. Is that not in and of itself kind of a commentary on the idea, the psychology of racism as a whole? Because it's just the other. It's human beings being tribal by nature. It's us and then the other. And this show does a really good job of, to your point, right? They look like everybody else. They're just normal fucking people.
Right.
But because there is that clear divide in aesthetic, they just have built societally. They have built a reason, built the other. They built the other, the perception of the other, not just, they...
I would agree with you if it was exclusively from the Republic standpoint, but it isn't. So, there's, got to be some other reason why they're thought of as the other. Because, the Federacy while they like pretended to care about them and pretended to treat them well, like they still were trying to get them killed for most of this season. And so it's like, I don't quite understand what's supposedly so monstrous about these 86. And I'm not sure that there is an answer. It just feels like there should have been like maybe a more unifying characteristic that they had, other than just being like good at war, which you would think would be a really good thing.
Sure. And to your point, I think I found it really interesting because I had a moment when I realized why the Federacy, not everyone too, a lot of the leadership, the very high up leadership, were almost sociopically kind of
more like leader.
Oh shit, dude. But yeah, seriously, who is the head guy with the old dude with the glasses, like the president of the Federacy? He was so like really on their side about keeping them alive and giving them all the rights and stuff, to the point where like, if you guys aren't willing to uphold my ideals of justice and being fair, I will literally take everyone down with me. Get fucked. Like, seriously. And
that was a kind of I felt odd scene.
Yeah, right.
Because like, while I'm applaud him for sticking to his morals and like sticking up for what he believes in,
he kind of went full like way beyond the gray. Like,
well, it's just like it almost becomes amoral if you go like so far for 5 people versus
your country
2 million or whatever.
Right.
It's not even like a your country, their country situation. It's just like you're responsible for millions of people, not just 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point earlier, like there's no kind of basis on the prejudice. I think the system of the Republic, it had more of a traditional tone to that kind of systemic racism, where it drove these 86ers to become the perception that which they already had. Monsters, subhuman. They literally live to fight. They're not even people. And then when they go to the Federacy, who's a little more chill about the whole 86 thing. I mean, we've seen people be like, save the 86. Like, there are individuals and groups, large swaths of people who really care about their individuality and rights. But a lot of the people within the military complex see them, they're just leagues beyond, to the point, like, they're just monsters, like straight up monsters. Whereas the Republic made them the monsters, they're seen as monsters as a byproduct of the Republic's bullshit. That's kind of where I saw, because the Federacy was better, but it wasn't devoid of that, right? And I think that might be part of it. Is like, there's no system that may be devoid of that mentality, because it's a humanity thing. It's not necessarily a societal thing.
Yeah, and like if that's all it ends up being, like I'll be totally fine with that as like like sort of a reasoning.
Yeah.
But it's just like they did nothing wrong in the Federacy at all. They literally only did their jobs and worked to the best of their ability to do all the missions that they were given. And so like the prejudice doesn't make sense unless it's like, wow, they're so much better than us. We have to like disparage them from that perspective, which I think is what there's Eugene and I forget the other kid's name, the red hair kid.
Eugene and Milo or something like that?
Michael or something.
Oh, Mikael, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
He was like very anti-Shin, but I think that was literally like a jealousy for how ridiculously good Shin is at everything.
Oh, yeah. And I think part of it is just like, it's more of a, kind of a cautious distance being placed rather than a straight up prejudice, right? Like, we don't know what they are, why they've come here, why they're absolute monsters on the battlefield, to the point where, give us the fast, like, tin cans. Don't give us those big, bulky safety things you got. Let us just bounce around real quick. They're like, that's absurd. Why would you want that? So I think it's more of, the Federacy and the people within it are kind of cautious about the other, but for the most part, the United Kingdom's front were diverting just for their effort. So they clearly understood their worth, at least here, more so than I think the Republic did, where they were expendable, useful maybe in their time. I don't know. It's a good point you bring up, though.
I think I sort of, of course, I was bringing it back to U.S. history and, world history a lot. And it almost reminded me of like during the Civil War, there was like units of like freed slaves and stuff like that did fight back, against the South. And that reminded me a lot of this, where it's like the 86 were freed,
yeah, quote unquote,
and then they just wanted to fight, and like, they wanted to be useful to the war effort, and they're like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. We saved you. We're your saviors. It's almost like sort of a white knight complex that the Confederacy had, especially for like the child soldier situation.
There was a really good quote. There's a character in this show. I think her name is Fredricia or Fredricia, something like that. The little Fredrica. Thank you, Fredrica. She is this little chibi Emoto kind of like little sister thing, but apparently she's like the last empress of like the former dynasty, essentially, in this Confederacy, and she is a lot more knowledgeable and nuanced, even though that might be one gripe I have for that character, is that they bounce back between the Emoto little pouty sister and someone who is bringing some real good character development to the table. And I didn't necessarily love how they handled her, but she had a really good quote that to the president, who is giving you everything you want. We're going to give you rights. Like you just can be citizens. And she said the Republic put them in a cage of prejudice and war, and you can't recognize that you're putting them in a cage of pity. They just got freed from the Republic. Don't cage them here in the same way. Interesting. And I love the way that was, because I think that could be another commentary on just, affirmative action style, like you're kind of overdoing it because, they've been hurt so bad. Let's just give them everything because we feel so bad. That's in a lot of ways just as bad. And the show, without saying it, does a really good job of having a character kind of call that person out as the representative for the entirety. He said it himself. He speaks for the entirety of the Confederacy. So he represents the country's ideals, and by caging them in the pity and coddling them, he's not giving them a choice the same way they didn't have one before. Amazing, amazing commentary on that. So kudos all around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely shows like you can take your like thoughts and prayers, let's just say, for like taking somebody out of a situation, but if they like sort of vibe with the situation more than you really thought, or like, I mean, they even mentioned like, this is all they know, and that's the reason that they don't think of the future. It's like, that's not for you to really decide, right?
Exactly,
if
right.
They're willingly wanting to go back into danger's way and try to make a difference. It's totally up to them, and it should be like they should have thought of it. It's like, all right, well, like we understand that, and I actually liked the president's growth on that matter, because he says, okay, but you have to go to like officer school so that after the war you have like a lot of good options as to like things you can do, right? Because he says officers are going to have way more options than just enlisted. And I liked that he did feel like a lot like a father figure, which these kids never had. Right?
Sure,
like Shin's really been their dad the whole time.
Daddy Shin.
And Shin is like, messed up in a million different ways. But, just I think they didn't do a perfect job of showing them like caring that he cared.
And that's
fair.
You know what I
mean?
And that's fair. And that might be their, a byproduct of who they are as characters.
Well, I think they did actually in like maybe the last episode when they're like, we're home.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that really like...
Right. Like, we're coming back not just to this country, but to you. Like,
right. I think that like, honestly, it was like a pop-off scene,
That was pretty good.
I was like, yo, the last 2 episodes were just like borderline waterworks.
So good.
But I did think it was like a little wild. The whole season, I guess, ends up breaking down into just trying to destroy like one essentially... weapon.
Yeah. So,
and it's like they kind of make it seem like, oh yeah, we're done, and then it's like, you barely started, boys.
Right. You just turn the tide for now. That the Legion has this weapon called the Morpho, which is essentially this big fuck off railgun.
Yeah,
and
baby.
That thing was fucking gnarly, by the way. And one of the interesting things in this show that I love that they really doubled down on in this is another part of the commentary of the soldier and the psychology of the soldier, both during and after being broached with war and battle, that both sides, the Legion and the Republic / Federacy, let's call it the human side, really, one side is just taking brains to offset an obsolescence plan that their creator had to keep them going, but it's literally just a brain in a suit. Where the other one, you can argue the pilots are kind of the same. Really, they're just brains in a mech. They're just meant to be piloters. And
well, I think it's not to get like too deep on it, but it is probably very difficult as like a general of an army to think of everybody as individuals when it's like, I imagine that decision, if you really thought about every single one like that, would be like potentially like heart-wrenching every single time.
We saw it with Lena when in part 1 when she tried to really humanize Spearhead Squadron, and in doing so she got closer to them, sure, but that technical oversight in the middle of season 1, that when Leo just popped the fuck off at her, but he had that big drop, like, you don't even fucking realize this entire time you have never once asked for our names. You thought you were getting chummy. You were trying to give us an edge in battle by doing extra work, but you never asked for our names. And that right there is the problem with you. You're just doing this to kind of soothe your own ego about being better and above it all, but you aren't because you're part of it. And this second part,
well, I think it is just like a really good commentary on like the weight that you carry in these positions. And like, they didn't do PTSD like you would expect in like whatever you'd call like a 3D movie with like real actors and stuff like that, right? It's not Terminalist where you get to watch him like not sure what happened and like, freaking out.
Is Terminalist any good?
I liked it a lot.
Okay, sick. That's a Chris Pratt one, right?
Yeah. The critics didn't like it because Chris Pratt's in it, but it's actually good. Everybody liked it.
Sick. Yeah.
Audience score, but they did it through the mechanics that they had in the show, which is like Shin having these like flashbacks to everybody holding their heads, being like, thanks, or we're waiting for you and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I think it's like also a really good indicator of like the duty that Shin feels like he has to everybody that's gone before him. And like, I know that survivors, guilt and like kind of how ridiculously tough that is for a lot of soldiers, I think was showed extremely well in this.
Incredibly well.
And that's kind of like why I wanted to bring it back a little bit toward like Band of Brothers, is like, the loss that they all shared in that show, and I guess obviously in real life. And then like the survivors, them feeling so bad about like, their buddies, their brothers, sisters dying at war.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like I thought like potentially one of the most like in touch with actual human being shows that we've ever had to review.
Because it did a really, really good job of juxtapositioning the mech sci-fi futuristic warfare next to like what we saw a lot in part 1, but even more in part 2, those human moments. Those little human moments of that. And the way they did Shin's representation of survivor's guilt and PTSD, it's, little spoilers for season 1. We're keeping it kind of light for season 2, but Shin does have, I think it is a clan trait, the Nozen clan trait that neither here nor there. He has a sixth sense and he can actually hear the thoughts of the Legion, because remember, they are brains operating as central units for the AI. He can hear the thoughts and the screams of those people, because they will harvest those brains from the battlefield, and you kind of live out your dying moments over and over to kind of pilot your objective as a brain in one of the Legion's things. So he can hear all that all the time. And if there is not a better perfect analogy of survivor's guilt and, representation of that PTSD, I don't think I've seen a better one in a very long time. Incredibly well done. And him living with that, he goes through a lot of interesting character developments, like how the fact that he at some point stops to really care at all, and he starts fighting really recklessly. like really recklessly, almost taking on all of those voices to fuel him and convince himself, I need to die on this battlefield. I got no one to go back to. Like, why am I alive? Why should I be alive? So fucking brilliant, man. Like, I have no notes. I mean, and it makes Shin as an interesting character as well, because I don't know about you, but he, you know, his growth of finding another reason to live has to resonate with someone on a deeper level than I can even possibly understand. Right? I mean, shit, it's a masterpiece.
Right. I think it's probably hard because war was literally all they knew. It's probably not very applicable to a lot of humans on Earth, probably.
Sure.
As far as like that specific aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, they played it really well, where they're just talking about like his feeling of emptiness and like being dead while still being alive, kind of thing. I'm sure there's plenty of people that feel that way, where it's like they don't really know what they want to do with their lives. They don't know what they're meant for. Let's just,
put it that
colloquially way. Say.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I thought like genuinely this show is like at surface, it's just like a fun, like shoot 'em up, like almost Gundam style. Like,
if you like
jump in your mech, but it's so much deeper.
Oh yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't think that there was a show like in last couple of years at least that was like this fucking deep.
Not the one that I think I have watched. I mean, and to the point you were mentioning, like how just that emptiness that Shin had, I mean, they take it one step further and you can see him like slipping into maybe a nihilistic attitude that I think a lot of people might actually experience on a smaller scale, less grand scale, where it's like, fuck it, right? Like just straight up, fuck this. Like what does it matter? Nothing matters. Everything I do it's still the same old. And I liked the idea that under the surface, without being preachy, I never felt like I was being preached to about like, oh, this is what we're talking about with society and PTSD and this. Like they had a lot to say, yes, but it was all done through framing, shot composition, character interactions, a byproduct of the world, not the world screaming at me, this is the message, go for it, you know? I don't know. I like shows that do that. I've always said that I like shows that show don't tell. And even the only exposition we ever really get is like about the war situation, just like what's happening on the field, like the battlefield. So everything else came through. There's a beautiful scene that I wanted to talk about where, remember Eugene, you know, the friend that he had made when he tried to assimilate himself into the real world of the Federacy. He was going to officer school as well. He was sent to the battlefield at the same time as Shin. The transition between him holding up a locket of his little sister and then snap cut to it in his hand when he's just on death's door on the battlefield. Very powerful. Like, yeah, I get to see her again, snap. And then...
I mean, I'm telling you guys, this... I mean... masterpiece type shit like that literally I think comes from like a Band of Brothers type thing where like they'll flash back to a conversation that they were having between like two like comrades or whatever about like, oh, my wife, yada yada, and then there'll be like a blown off hand somewhere with a letter from her in his hand or something. It's just like so I think it's so visceral and like it like really like I think this entire core was just so emotionally high strung.
Yeah.
And like so deep. Like genuinely like I don't know that I've seen an anime this fucking deep.
Right. And I mean, even in that same scene, we know that Shin, he takes it upon himself to, you know, kill any person on the field that could be in the future a brain for the Legion to harvest for another soldier on their end. So he has this, you know, pistol at his side that he takes the lives of people by just like, you know, putting one between the eyes out of mercy. That's why he's called the Reaper. But Eugene saying thank you Shin takes his life. That Mikael guy comes over like, you did this, didn't you? And we see all like, he just stone face does get a little emotional at the prejudice. And then he's asked over the comms, Are you okay? Puts his head down, breathes out, and then it's not him looking up, it's his machine looking up with the red eye, and he says yes. He just snaps back into soldier mechanic mode, and I'm like, that gave me chills. And that was like 30 seconds of all that shot composition. I'm like, that is fucking brilliant. I'm like, oh my God. I had to like just pause for a second. I'm like, that said everything about Shin's mentality in a jump cut. There's so many anime that yearn to be. I mean, I think of like To Your Eternity that tried to be high art, and it got close, but it's just too in your face and preachy. 86 just absolutely just fucking finds that beautiful line and it wastes no time. It's so well paced. Everything about it. Trying to think. I feel like we've just been gushing. Do you have any notes on the second part?
Yeah, I mean, you did mention a little bit. Frederica is a very odd character for me because number one, I couldn't tell how old she was supposed to be.
Yeah, didn't
because I thought this all like kind of started years and years and years ago, and she looked identical then than she does now.
Didn't Raiden basically ask her at one point when he kind of caught wind of like, you're smarter than you look? He's like, how old were you 10 years ago? And she's like, damn, they found out. And then she reveals that she's the last empress of that old Federacy.
That's what I didn't quite get.
Yeah, right.
So like 10 years ago, so she should be 20. Why she look like she hasn't aged?
I don't know. It could be a clan thing because her particular clan also has an ability where she can see the memories of people that she meets or looks at. I don't know if there's any tomfoolery there, but we do have a bit of supernatural shit going on in the show.
I think her, because like you said earlier, you were kind of annoyed that she'd be like cutesy and then she'd flip to being like super deep.
Yeah, right.
But I think that's pretty easily explainable by like seeing people's lives, like that many. Evidently, everyone she looks at, she sees like either their past or their future or their death or whatever. Like, I would imagine that would grow you up like hella fast.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
Also, like living through your like empire or whatever collapsing around you, your quote unquote, knight brother guy dying in front of you.
Kirya.
Yeah, like basically having to pretend that you're dead so that the ashes of the past will stay in the past. Like, I imagine that would grow you up quick. So I wasn't too worried about like really her like a mercurial personality between like little girl and like super, super wizened aged individual. But I wish they had explained like why she looks like she's 10 when she's got to be at least 20 plus.
Yeah, right.
And then she also like you said, half the time is acting like she's a dummy little girl. And like even at the end, she was doing like arithmetic and shit. And it's like, so what's
your deal,
they
girl?
Just
like
did a weird job with her.
Yeah, right.
And I realized like she's obviously like a plot device, and I wasn't necessarily a fan of the plot device. Like, I think it's deep enough and beautiful enough as it is to not need little Frederica coming out of the woodwork to be like explaining to Shin why he feels the way he does. And it's like, bitch, you're fucked up too.
Well, I think to your point, plot device, but then it's important to understand what was the device's end goal. I think in my mind, she was supposed to be a surrogate for what Shin once was, because the parallels are obvious. Shorei, basically his older brother that he was going after in the first season. She has her quote unquote night brother, Kirya, basically she wants to chase after and kind of, put his ghost to rest. And I think she was just there as a foil to show the character growth, or more like arc of Shin, for sure. Like, there's moments they had, like, you got to go chase your ghost of your brother, but you tell me I can't of mine. How dare you? Like imagine if someone told you that when you're looking for your brother. How would you feel then? I think that's really kind of what she was meant to be. And I will say they used the little sister girl trope fine. They used the deep parts of her in really good moments, but I don't know. It just felt weeble wobbly. Like she was just kind of like connective tissue for other stuff. But to your point, I don't think they really ever needed that. It's kind of just fluff,
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, I think she really was supposed to be connective tissue. I just don't know that it actually landed well. Like
because
specifically her.
Yeah, because I think everything else was so strong that she was just superfluous. She didn't need to be there, right?
And she really did say like the same shit that Shin was already thinking or whatever, like a few times. And then I don't know. I think it is hard to watch a little girl be like so wizened occasionally. Like some of the shit she said is like, even she's like scolding the president, and it's like the dude clearly has lost his whole family. Like that was the
precipice for all that kind of thing.
And basically, right when he took him into his house, he asks his like maid, "Is it wrong to use him as like surrogates?" Which I thought was like,
that's a pretty nuanced
but
ask.
for like a throwaway line in a show. Serious shit, man.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's the thing about this. Like you really got to pay attention, I think. You can obviously enjoy it without really paying attention, but like a lot of the imagery I think was very difficult to even put together if you weren't like really paying attention. I think they played a lot with like life and death imagery as well, specifically like the
chrysanthemum, or the flowers called chrysanthemums.
not chrysanthemums. They're spider lilies.
Spider lilies, that's right.
It's like a flower in Japan that like indicates death. It supposedly like grows on the like river Styx or whatever.
Yeah, and I
like their version of that.
And there's
a lot of white butterflies flying by, and just like a lot of stuff indicating like passing and like moving on. And then, I mean, this show is like so like genuinely so good in my opinion that it's genuinely hard to talk about this.
Yeah,
because it's like almost like I just want to like rewatch it.
Yeah, right. Honestly, like, and that's the one thing too, is if it's any indication of how much the people that were involved in this that cared. I know the director. The director of this show. It is his first time solo directing. He was assistant director on Mirai and on Erased. And like he was an assistant, and this was his first head director job, period. Holy shit.
I mean, Erased is great and this shit's on it.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is that he is like a seasoned vet caliber level director, and there's a lot of recap episodes that you can see, but one of them in particular is called the Visual Commentary Special, and I watched it, and it's the director, I think like the storyboarder, and like someone else, like a writer or some. They're very high up in the production of this, and you can tell all of the love, the passion, the stuff they were talking about as they recapped, and that level of effort is more than a lot of shows get in an entire season. This was an impromptu recap ep that was live action, almost as if you had like a YouTube Reacts, but it's the directors doing it.
Nice.
It was sick. I was like, this is, and I didn't look away. I was like, whoa, normally I'd skip the hell out of this, but like, this is incredible. This had so much love poured into it, and it's clear that the director really understood the vision. I think it's the guy who wrote this light novel is called Atago or something like that. Atsago or something. But yeah, it's shocking to me how something like this isn't, like on Mal it's 8.4, and I think that might be criminally low, which is wild to me.
Yeah, here's my other out of pocket thing. I think this is like what Evangelion wishes it could be. in that like they were clearly trying to play with imagery, play with like deep feelings, and like this idea of like growing up, this idea of like duty, and it's just like every one of those beats, this show does a million times better.
Honestly, it kind of does, because it just doesn't fall apart. It absolutely fucking sticks the landing.
And it's like it's like a really unique show that you're able to use something like relatively futuristic like mechs and like still use them, and it doesn't feel like, you know, you're playing like space games or anything, right? But, you know, while at the same time, it's really all about the humans. And like, I think that's what Evangelion wanted to do, but like, I cared way more about the mechs in that case.
Right. The Evangelion, the showcase was the mechs in 86. The mechs were just the literal and figurative vehicle for the story of the humans. Like, seriously. And something else like this show does a rare thing where Ethan was saying like you really got to watch it. This is one of those shows that if you popcorn this shit, you're still going to have an awesome time.
100%.
Good war mechs. CGI visually is popping off hard. I mean,
you might cry at the end. You might cry at the end.
You might cry at the end. Yeah.
The last 2 episodes, I was holding it together. Barely.
And that's popcorn. And that's just popcorn level. If you really put it down and really give it your attention,
you're guaranteed to cry in those last 2 episodes.
You are guaranteed, and this is why 1 for the episode. Bull howdy now, it is deep, deep, deep. It is so, every single scene, you could pull away an image allegory, you can pull away a metaphor, you can pull away, like you said, even the offhanded stuff has a lot of questions around it. If you're willing to give yourself over to thinking and really applying that WP, that wrinkle power, you're going to walk away with arguably an anime of the year contender, and that's I didn't think I would go into it after part 1. I was like,
so it was good. I recall us both saying it was really good.
Yes, we did,
and we thought like potentially there'd be like some other force out there. So I was pretty hyped that we got that right.
Yeah,
I did not expect there to be 3 other nations still existing, and like these entire other like I guess fronts of battle. I just did not expect that. But I think it's far surpassed anything that we guessed could have happened.
Yeah.
Which big fan of that.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing I would have liked a little more exploration in was maybe the Legion itself. And I'm
still very fuzzy on it.
It's very fuzzy, but to something you said earlier in the episode, you know, at the end of this show, they have just turned a major tide, but they are in no way done at all.
Right.
Like there's so much more conquest needed to get to the heart of whatever the fuck is going on here.
Well, they keep mentioning their manufacturing facilities are still functional. It's like, why don't you attack them? Just a question from like me to you.
I think it's a distance thing. I don't think they have the artillery to, you know, ICBMs or anything like that.
They say that, but like they shoot shitloads of cruise missiles. They were shooting like all these weird like future age missiles.
But it was only like 400, 500 kilometers basically. Like they're a huge artillery. It was like 400 or 500 kilometers. I think we're talking like a continent level of land to conquest before they can even get to those manufacturing facilities. And
so this was my question. Like,
yeah,
I think they play this really weird game where they're like simultaneously extremely advanced, like the para-raid shit where you can like link into other people.
Didn't they have a throwaway line that was built off of a clan's ability?
I think it was the Nozen clan actually,
the Nozen clan,
or maybe Melise or whatever the fuck.
Lena.
Yeah. But the point being, like extremely like forward-leaning technology. Yet they don't have like a lot of the things that we would have currently, and it's kind of like an odd game to play. Like I think right now, one of our like most devastating military weapons that people probably don't know too much about, but they like totally exist. It's called like a kinetic bombardment. Basically, you take these tungsten rods up to space and you literally just drop them on your target.
Sick.
And they're called God rods, colloquially.
Holy shit. How did I not know about this? This is fucking rad.
Because it's sicker.
It's sicker, dude. They're literally space drops.
Yeah, but it's like literally indefensible because they drop so fast. Like your warning system would tell you like when it's 100 like miles off the ground, maybe.
Right.
And we have nothing fast enough to stop it. And so it's almost like the new Cold War is like, well, we all got God rods. Who's gonna
drop one first?
If you
baby?
drop one, it's
right.
It's as bad as a nuke.
Holy shit!
You can like, it's basically so heavy, these tungsten rods, that it would just like melt a city.
I need to look this up.
It's wild.
Do they have any like test footage on that?
I don't think they've publicized any God rods dropping.
Damn it!
There's like Wikipedia's though all about it. So
hell yeah.
But the point being, like, do we not have satellites? Because they somehow have a bunch of like radar technology and communication
They have,
technology.
like observation drones kind of thing.
Right. So like, is there satellites? Like, have they thought of maybe just dropping something from space on the whatever it's called, the big fucking bomb boy?
And that's another great thing about this world is that a lot of it is left up to intuition of the audience and implicit messaging. That if you noticed, the Federacy and the Republic and even the Alliance of Wald, they all have distinctly different technological, not just advancements, but paths that they have invested in. It makes me think, before the War of the Legion, has humanity in this particular pseudo-Earth been really cagey, almost like a Cold War situation, about what they can and can't do from a technological and military standpoint? Because we have the para-raids in the Republic. We have way better aircrafts in the Federacy and a lot safer mechs over there. And they were just like, what the fuck is this para-raid thing? Well, we're definitely going to take that and use that.
Yoink.
Yoinkus. And then the
UK or whatever they were.
Yeah, it was like Rio Grande or whatever the fuck. Like they had like way better like observational technology, surveillance, surveillance.
And they're like, "Wow, you're really giving us the whole fucking meatballs." And they're like, "Well, I mean, it's world-ending calamity. May as well join up."
And that's the thing. Everyone's shocked at them revealing that information. Only furthers that potential thing you can think about is these countries probably were at each other's fucking throats, like a Cold War situation, for them to be like, "Oh, you just gave us the goods." The deets, the sweet deets, like out of nowhere, and
we have no god rods. Explain that to me.
Yeah, where's your god rods?
Sorry, just question. Do you have god rods?
Yeah. You don't know. You don't have god rods.
Okay, then. You don't have. If you don't know, then you don't know.
Guys, I'll say it. No god rods. No play. I don't even want you in this alliance. We're not even
it was interesting. They mentioned they do have cruise missiles, and then they're like, "Oh, it's too slow for some application." Cruise missiles are stupid fast.
Well, I think it's against the Morpho, the railgun. And that's one thing, too. Now that they have basically...
Yeah, there's the other question. How is the Legion so technologically advanced?
Right. And I think that it's like the old empire that built them way overstepped their bounds. And they're like, oh, fuck. And then basically the uprising failed, but then the AI went just like, no. Sorry. We're it now, and they just because the people who made them had a 6-year obsolescence plan. It would automatically go dark at 6 years, but that's how long the human brain was supposed to last in these. So they had a really good AI type decision, right? Well, what if we just get more brains? And then our cycle just recounts. Great. So
right, but they said like originally the Legion had like 0 tactical ability. Like they would just like throw waves.
Right.
And then like when they started adding brains, they started getting like tactically smarter.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Morpho took out a bunch of like forward operating bases, like pinpointed them. Like that is like really high level tactics.
Yeah.
And it's like, but still, if you're stealing brains of people who have yet to come up with like wild shit, like as far as I could tell, it was like sort of they take your brain and then like your last programming essentially is like how you live
used. And it's how you get used.
How you legion your shit.
How you legion that shit, baby.
And so like, I don't understand how they have such ridiculous technology without anyone around them being smart enough to create that technology.
I think that's...
I guess I need to know if No Face is like its own AI that's just like constantly getting smarter and growing, like we would think it is. Like
I would have think that No Face
genetically recombinating code or whatever,
right? And kind of maybe hive minding this shit. But yeah, to your point, I mean the brain.
Well,
addition,
I thought the hive mind Legion thing was a very like definitely on the nose, but very like tip of the hat type shit.
Pretty good. Not too bad. We are Legion. We are all. We are many. And the idea that they had with the Morphos was like another, I think, a great tactical leap forward for the Legion, right? They showed their might with this weapon, obviously would make it a central point of attack for any opposing force because it's by and large the strongest thing anything in this battle has shown. So they had a spare on lock, pull that, reload with the core and then lure everyone in with the dead one because they said, oh, yeah, we made them think that, you got a good hit, but it's not down, so we're going to go finish it off. Nuh-uh. That was a lure. Legion Daddy's got another railgun. That's how it be. So I wanted to see more of the Legion. If apparently there is more light novels, so more could be adapted, but I'd be curious to see there's still those mysteries kind of dangling in front of us. And if we never know, all the better.
I know. I think certainly there better be another season. Well, like they just got to a situation where it's like they finally all got into like, let's just say even pegging.
Yeah, even keel right there.
Like all of our main characters from season 1 and well, like not all of them, but
not all of them.
A lot of the main characters from season 1 and 2 that we've invested a lot of time and energy in have just finally like met up.
Yeah, they're all squatted up now.
Yeah, they're squatted up. They're holding hands at the end type shit.
Oh, yeah. And I love the idea that like at the very end when Lena finally finds Shin, the one she was directing all through part 1, I found it a little interesting that even she didn't recognize him.
I was a little concerned about that.
Right? I was like,
they talked every fucking night.
You would think you would recognize the voice. I know it was like in a bad way.
He also called her Colonel 3 times. Shouldn't she be like, what the fuck?
How would you know I'm a colonel?
Considering I am not currently, I'm a captain.
Oh, she's a major. Yeah, I think that was what they called her.
Major.
Sure, right. Yeah, it's like, I'm not that though. I would, actually.
And then the other thing is like, how did she last enough time in the Federacy, like she was around them a bit, to have not heard at all that there was 86 there?
That's a really good
right,
point.
because it was months. Also, and then it kind of fucked up. They didn't say like, we should go say hi.
It's also very,
like they spent 3-4 months, I think, but it was like almost December to March before they even like went and saw her. And I'm like, yo, that's fucked up.
Right, because
she thought you were dead for 3 months. She's probably mourning you.
The plan happened in October. Then they went back out in around November. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because they celebrated at the end. It was the birth holiday.
Well, it showed Christmas.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the last scene is like March 20th.
That's right. That's super right.
And I'm like, yo, what the fuck are y'all doing? Just like letting her languish over there?
Yeah, that's pretty cold.
And then even worse, like when they gave her like assignment, you remember there's like this scene where she's like pissed off talking to the operations guy. And I'm like, well, this guy sucks, so he could have done anything to piss her off.
That's fair.
And she's like, you see her tablet, and there's like a lot of blacked out names. That's obviously her boys.
That's the boys.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense. She's about to lead them, and you're not going to tell her their names. That makes no sense.
And I think that's for her. It's just like, wait a minute. I've felt this before. I've felt the dehumanization aspect before. Kind of a little thing again, right? The Federacy still.
But I don't know if they explain that, I'd be okay with that. But it's just
they did
like,
not do that. Yeah.
I couldn't tell if they're like, this is going to be a surprise for you. Like, I could not tell if that's what they were going with. And if that is, it's like, you really waited till like way after Christmas, way after like Easter even?
Yeah, right. It's almost Keister, my guys. You got just give it, just please go say hi.
Right.
For the love of God. But yeah, and again, these are nitpicks.
Or like why, though I think symbolically her saving him at the end was unbelievable.
Oh, when that shot from nowhere.
Yeah, from fucking
downtown, dude.
Yeah, downtown. That was a full court shot.
And then he basically put the barrel right in the Morpho's fucking throat.
Yeah, right down the gully.
Right in the chrome dome. And that
last like interaction with Kyrie where he's like trying to pull back, but Kyrie's holding his hand like to him to self-destruct. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Well framed. I definitely teared up. I'm like, oh my God, this is good.
Well, it's almost like the life that he's living, he wants to get away from it and can't, kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Like he's still pulled in.
Yeah. That's where he finds purpose.
Literal chills, bros.
Yes. And I think like his growth is like he finds a reason for living through living for Lena. And that's just to get back to her. Let's fucking go.
I was actually gonna be so mad if he got together with Kurena or whatever, because she's so annoying.
She's pretty annoying. I like Anju way more.
I misplaced a lot of season 1 when I watched this, and I'm like, I thought Anju and Shin were like together, and I forgot that there was like that blonde guy that she did like.
Leo? Yeah.
Was that him?
Yeah, Leo was kind of the hot mouth, the one who like mouthed off to Lena, and he's a bit of a.
But he was a tall guy, right? The older kid.
Oh no, never mind. Because the 5 left.
Theo is Laughing Fox who bitched at her.
Theo, sorry, not Leo. Theo. I'm thinking of Theo. Yeah.
There was an older blonde guy who was like Anju, Raiden, and her kind of age.
Oh, that's right.
And they were like getting together.
Is he like the undercut kind of dude, or
no, like shoulder length hair, blonde.
I do not remember him.
Anyway, I had forgotten he exists. So like when they were like not together, I'm like, what is going on? I thought her and Shin were a thing, and I'm like, oh wait, that was the other dude entirely.
Couldn't be more opposite.
And I'm like, oh yeah, him and Malaysia were gonna get it on if they ever meet up.
Absolutely reunite, if you know what I mean.
Well, unite.
Unite.
Yeah, never united.
So honestly, clearly masterpiece, like nitpicks here and there, but you know, I think maybe if you aren't paying attention, you can maybe the pacing or the way they cut past and future can get a little confusing. But other than that, absolutely no fucking notes. I recommend this as a binge. This show is an absolute binger. Give yourself a weekend, just crack it out. It's only 23 eps. And a lot of those actually in the middle are like recaps. Like, I think there's 1, 2, 3 recap episodes in the entirety.
In dub, they weren't there, thankfully.
Okay, in sub, they were there.
So this is kind of a kind of weird thing. It's something for some reason, this is like a character trait of mine. I don't know what the hell the problem is, but I'll like really enjoy one half of a season and like won't be able to finish the second half or like won't start it. It's similar to like Tokyo Revengers. I never went past her episode.
That I did. I go one past and it's worth it. It's solid.
But it's just like one of these weird things, one quirks that I have. But when I tried originally when this came out, I was gonna watch it, and then the first like maybe 5 minutes of the first episode for part 2 like has nothing to do with our like main cast, and I'm like, are they just gonna like replace the cast and like start over
with Colossus and who she's
Cyclops?
Cyclops, that's right.
And I'm like, no way, our boys all died, and they're just like, all right, round 2, bitches.
Next generation Boruto shit right here.
I literally thought that's what it was gonna be like, and I'm like, this sucks. I turned it off. And like literally 1 minute later, I would have seen our boys.
Yep.
And Goys waking up.
See, and that's one thing too, is if I had a little bit of a nitpick, I wish they did more with Lena. I don't hate that they didn't. I like where they went otherwise. Obviously, it's about the boys. But I liked a lot of her story in season 1 about, you know, defying the systems that made you, indoctrination, and denying that. Well, and her naivety being woken up by a reality, like a harsh reality. That's really cool. We saw her hardened in the second, and it's made her the top handler, but kind of
Bloody Regina, the bloody queen.
Yep.
I do think they missed out on a slight opportunity. I totally agree with you, because there's clearly something going on when her uncle was like, I'll buy you time kind of thing. But like, I don't feel like they explained that enough to where I was going to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I just wish there was like maybe 1 or 2 more scenes where there was like maybe a flushing out of that whole kind of side of the argument. Cause like, it was clear, like her boss was like being a prick because of all the shit that happened in season 1. But she was also just like popping off, winning all her battles and shit. Cause like 86 for some reason like her.
Yeah. I mean,
and so like she got demoted. I don't know. There was just like a lot of, I think, behind the scenes stuff that happened in the Republic that we didn't get to we weren't privy to, that kind of put it in a weird position. And then like her and that other girl, the like scientist bitch, like they made up somehow.
Yeah, right. And also, yeah. So I mean, if them moving away from the Republic is fine, I wonder if the story wrung out all the juice they wanted from the Republic as a setting and characters.
Honestly,
I think they had more to give.
It was kind of strange because I want to say it was her uncle, the general guy, was like, well, maybe we should just all get eradicated. Like he almost didn't want to put up a fight on purpose because he knew how fucked they were. like as people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, borderline, okay.
Yeah, right. And
but then it was like, then that was actually voiced by our good president in the Confederacy. He's like, well, I'm going to let you all burn if you let these kids die. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, what? And I think him
second.
going off with the gun is a kind of he wanted that whole monologue he had about, you know, it's my duty to protect you while you were dreaming your dreams as a child. But one day, someday, maybe today, that reality is going to crush you and your dreams altogether. So I think him going off with the gun is symbolizing, like, I'm not coming back. This is the reality that will kind of crush you. That's the way I saw that.
But like, that's not like a full thought.
No, it's not full. It's not fleshed. But that's what
I was thinking more of like, you know, the old generation is there to be like a shield for the new generation to come into their own kind of scenario.
Yep, that's kind of it.
But like, they also were playing that really heavily on the Confederacy side, right? They kept saying like, oh, you know, I don't feel good about putting kids on the front line, and
but we're gonna do it anyway. So
there's some like confusing, I think. I would almost call it like bureaucracy situation going on in both sides that I guess I wish I got a little more like fleshed out. But I think overall, like the amount of transparency they had for like some of the battle schemes and stuff like that, I thought like
sick as hell.
I could use a little bit more just because I like that kind of shit. I'm a weirdo like that. But I think it was just enough to like inform people who don't like war shit, but like still enough to where people who do like war shit were like, okay, that was pretty nice.
Could see the
it's like Girls on Panzer did a really good job of the war side, the tactics side, while being like cute girls doing insane things. And like this did like maybe a little bit less than I would have loved on the tactics, but they still did, I think, more than season 1. And like, it did feel like we were really kind of involved in the battle on the Western Front.
The theater just grew.
Yeah,
when we had, like to your point, United Kingdoms. Like we have much more allies.
I mean, it felt like World War II. I'll tell you that right now.
Some fucking allies out here. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, brother.
And the Legion Axis power. Duh. But you know what, man? You know we got to do it to him. And I think this one's gonna be super high.
Yeah, it's a certified G tier.
Okay. Wow. God tier, you say?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No, Gandalf tier.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Which score would you give it?
This is a certified 98.
90 fucking 8.
I mean, this shit absolutely popped off.
I wasn't even 94.
This is the best show of the year so far, absolutely, and probably definitely just nothing's going to compare. Maybe, I don't know if Chainsaw Man really just pops off and teaches me something. I will say I've watched the new trailers for Bleach, and it does look like it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Disney, so I'm just going to sail some seas or something and like watch it like I really want to.
Like I used to.
Yes.
Honestly, watch Bleach like you used to, guys.
Like the old days.
Like the old days. But yeah, high scores for this, but it absolutely is worth it.
What'd you give it?
94.
Okay.
94. I think
I mean, a little low, but that's fine.
The only thing that's keeping me from maybe higher is that, you know,
brain cells.
You know, I think brain cells, that's part of it. I have been inundated with Legion Tech. I don't know. Fuck me. But
domestic abuse claims.
Domestic abuse claims. Yeah, I was frazzled when I was watching it. I missed some of the nuance.
I mean, honestly, I missed the symbolism of the ants eating the fucking butterfly.
Yeah, I was watching a cop just circle my place of the perimeter for nobody, apparently.
With a fucking AR.
So, and what's blocking me, I would say, mechs ain't my bag. I like war-esque and war strategy type shows.
But it's almost like not about the mechs.
It's not about the mechs, right. But like, if that is the vehicle by which they give it to me, that human of a story, I'd say that, you know,
Eat your heart out, Evangelion.
Eat your heart out. Come on, guys. And, you know, wartime strategy, I enjoy it. I like it. I don't know if I'm as much of a nerd for it as you are, but I can recognize that it was fun. It was super fun to see the strategery happen live. It was really cool. And there was some real good jaw-dropping, like, in the battle, like, twists. Like, the second Morpho and, like, you know, this onslaught of, like, aerial attacks. Like, definitely, like, there are moments that, like, oh, shit. Like, that was really intense and really cool. So, All in all, 94. That's what he gets from me. Easy peasy. But thank you for coming to class, everybody. If you want to listen to more of our backlog, you're already in the platform, babies. You can just go over one click over and go down to 170 plus episodes. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you do that thing on YouTube and anywhere else you kind of get your podcast fix. All the links will be in the description of anywhere you're listening to this right now. If you want to give us some monetary love, only if you can, patreon.com/Weebology. $1 up gets you into our Discord with all of our past guests and lovely Patreon folk, where we will be no doubt talking and singing the praises of this show when this episode drops. $3 and up gets you the syllabus sidebar, the lo-fi high vibe, sometimes anime, sometimes not, sometimes on hiatus, and sometimes visual show where we talk about life and things, and about 30 episodes of stuff over there to listen to as well. And I think that might be it for all I got today. I'm about to get me a dense tray of food. I'm so hyped for that. I've not eaten all day.
Really? All day?
Most of the day. I grazed a little bit, but it was bad. I had a hard
Get you
life
some.
Oh, yeah.
Some tray chick.
But until I can fill my belly with calories and feed my wrinkles, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology.
Deuces.
Hey, I'm going to ride home in my fucking spider mech, dude. Yeah, I traded the Subaru in for that.
My Reagan leaf.